Oh my goodness, good morning. I hope you believe that this morning. Who are you to deny what the Lord can do, and not just in other people's lives, but like in your life? Who are you to deny what the Lord can do in your life? Amen. God, I pray for this morning. I pray for our time together, where our spirits are at, where our minds are at, our hearts are at this morning, where our attention goes. I just pray that we can put ourselves aside and put life aside, and that we can just enter into your presence. You're already here. I pray that we're able to show up, and that we're able to give you our time, our energy, our attention, and just focus on who you are, who you've been, who you are going to be, who you are in our lives, where you show up, what you're trying to show us, how you're trying to speak to each and every one of us in different ways, all at the same time in the same exact room. God, we just praise your holy name forever. And in your name we pray, amen. Amen. You may be seated. You may be seated. Good morning. Good morning, Eddie. How's everybody doing?
Welcome home.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Eddie. Verse came to me this morning was, "Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." Psalm 133. It was King David. The story goes that that's probably right after he took reign and he was looking for unity in his kingdom. And I would imagine he saw some glimpses of unity in his kingdom after seeing division in his kingdom for a long time. And there must have been a moment where he said, "Behold," which is such a big word in the Bible. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And man, what an amazing thing that what an amazing vision if we could stand up and there's moments where we go, man, behold how good it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And I know that this past week some of us have seen some of those moments where you just stop for a second and you look around and you're like, man, the energy's different. There's something different about this place or this space or this spirit in this room or these people. And it got me thinking about something during our week this past week. So I'm just going to open with that, and then we're going to have a little bit of a different morning, which to you guys, you know that's not different. It's always different. I've even stopped saying that for the most part. But a topic came up this past week called thin places. Some people would say thin spaces, but I was introduced to a pastor about 12 or 13, maybe 15 years ago named Michael Frost. He's an Australian guy. He's a missiologist, so the entire way he thinks is just mission. Like, not church or building churches or building congregations, but like, are we on mission and how are we doing mission? And obviously there's so many ways to do mission. There's many of you in this room that are on mission and you don't even know it. I mean, you're on mission when somebody cuts you off in traffic and you go, "That's all right, sorry, it was my fault." That's literally a piece of being on mission. You're on mission when you stop and you talk to somebody at the cash register that you say hello to every week and they never say hello back, but you just don't give up. You just keep being kind to them. You're on mission when you do that. It doesn't just look like a mission trip, but Michael Frost is just a forward thinker. He has been for a long time. He's pretty brutal. He's got a foul mouth if you're an American. It's totally normal if you're Australian. My favorite part of Michael Frost was the first time I ever listened to him preach, and there was a room of about 500 pastors at a pastor's conference, and he's just cussing up a storm, and about 10 minutes in, he goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I forgot I was in America." These aren't bad words for where I come from. And I was like, this guy's awesome. Like, tell us how you really feel. But he talked about thin spaces or thin places. And if you've never experienced that, man, I'm excited for you because there's a whole nother level to this thing that you might currently call Christianity. And it goes back to an ancient Celt term. The ancient Celts, Celt Christians had a name for those rare locales, those areas where the distance between heaven and earth collapses. So if you've ever been in a room, sometimes it's a little bit of a worship service. It might be bedside to somebody that you're praying for or just spending time with. It could be an interaction in a store and you just go, "What did I just, that wasn't a normal, how are you doing?" Something just happened. You ever have that moment where you go, "I think I was just involved in something that was a little bit different than just my 2 feet on the ground?" And here's what they believed. They held that in most places, heaven and earth are only 3 feet apart. In most places, heaven and earth are only 3 feet apart. Yet in thin places or thin spaces, that distance is even smaller. The veil between heaven and earth is lifted. The sacred touches the mundane, and even for a moment we see clearly we touch heaven. And there's a verse in the Bible, I didn't look it up, but it's this verse where he talks about that eventually, like right now you see through a fog, and everything's kind of foggy. And even as clear as any of us can be on our good days, where we've got everything planned out and the budget's working out just fine, and retirement and the house and all those things, even then we're honestly just seeing through a fog. We have no idea what tomorrow brings. We have no idea what yesterday meant a lot of times. We don't even stop to even think about what our life even means. We just keep plugging along and doing the best next thing we know, unless we slow down and have time in prayer and time in worship and time with each other, not just on our own, and get to these moments where maybe, just maybe, what was it? The distance between heaven and earth collapses. And I remember him preaching about that and me just having like glimpses of, I think I've been involved in some of those spaces. And then we were in youth ministry at the time, and we talked about it, and we just had worship afterwards, and it was like you just felt it. Like it's just everybody in the room was going, oh yeah, like we're only 3 feet away. And believe it or not, teenagers are a whole lot more, I don't want to be rude to the adults, but they're just, they still have a little bit of creativity left in them. You know, life hasn't told them they're not allowed to believe, just like this last song. You know, what are some of the words in that last song? Like, when did I forget? When did I forget this stuff? And I mean, it's not just biblical where Jesus says, "What are you doing? Let the kids come unto me." Like they haven't lost their creativity yet. They're closer to heaven than you guys are. You know all about the Torah, but these kids, they just want to come see me. They get it, you don't. It's even psychologically proven now that we literally train most kids to lose their creativity by the time they're in their teenage years. But we were with all these teenagers, and it's almost like they believe the message. Imagine that. It's a crazy thought. And then it's almost like they believed it enough to actually act it out in worship. And it was one of those moments where I still remember it was just like, there it is. Like everybody, more people in this room believe that we're closer to heaven than more people do not believe. And it's almost like the room shifts. Have you ever been in a room where it shifts? And don't just take church and spirituality off the table. Have you ever been in a party and that person shows up and the room shifts? It's the same thing. It's just shifted in a different direction, right? Maybe it's an in-law or something. But, sorry, actually, there's lots of in-laws in the room that I'm related to, so I shouldn't say that. But family things. And I believe that most of the time we just forget to believe. Like we do church, or we do like Christianity, or we get our Jesus on, or whatever we coin it as a phrase, and this whole Christianity thing has kind of gotten a little bit boxed up and contained. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there's, the crazy Christians some of us might have grown up with, and we were like, that was probably way crazy because everything's spiritual. Like, my son got another ticket. He's got that demon of speeding, and it's just like, oh my gosh, can we just not be spiritual every minute, But I believe that there's these moments where it just gets really, 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 really thin. Michael Frost also said this. I was going to save it for the end, but I'm just going to ruin the punchline. He says this. He says, if you're winning people, I think this one's in there, Shelley, if you find it. It's probably towards the end, might be in the middle, could be more towards the front. If you're winning people to a 10 or 15-minute viewing of a pre-packaged worship and teaching experience devoid of community mission, correction, reconciliation, or justice, you're not growing the church. You're fostering religious consumers. And that's tough because we've been taught for decades, like, here's how you do church. Here's how you get them in. Here's how you greet them, feed them, and seat them. Yes, that's a thing you learn. And you just entertain, and then everybody's doing it, but there's so many people in church that are going inside. If they were to stop for a minute and maybe have a conversation with a certain person or go to a certain area or get outside that box, they go, man, I'm trying so hard. And I just remember Jesus saying something different. Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. He didn't bring those kids to him. Is that me? That's muted. Check. All right. It's just the energy coming off of this t-shirt right here. But he didn't say, hey, get those kids in line and teach them everything and tell them I'll meet with them next Tuesday, or he didn't say, hey, what Bible verses do you know? He literally said, just come unto me. The poet Charlene Sledge writes that the thin places are those where the door between the world and the next is cracked open for a moment, and the light is not all on the other side. It's God-shaped space. It's holy. So imagine that. Like, I think a lot of times we grow up in church and we go, man, I can't wait to get to heaven. We're just taught for like this heaven thing. And you better say the prayer because, nobody knows the day or hour, or, you're not promised another day, and you have these few verses that are clicked in there like, I better go ahead and say the prayer. And that's true. But there's just this life to live. Jesus didn't say, and then just exist for your rest of your life in fear that you are or aren't saved, and hopefully you end up in heaven. He says, come unto me, like live in my kingdom. Like I came here to show you something different. He literally showed something that was totally upside down. The light was not all on the other side. It was not just in heaven. And a guy named Jason Lee, he's a young adult pastor. Last quote, I promise, maybe. Thin places are not just physical location. They are also mindful, unhurried, unencumbered, agenda-free moments where we catch a glimpse of God's heavenly realm. There we experience the presence of God and cultivate the transformation we desire. This is what I think it means to gaze fully into the face of Jesus. Listen to that line. We cultivate the transformation we desire. A lot of us don't just desire hope and peace and prosperity and all these things. We desire transformation. Now, we might not want to say that word out loud. We might not want to say we desire spiritual formation out loud. But at the end of the day, you do. Your soul desires to be more like Jesus, but how do we get there? How do we get there? I said all this, and I thought about all of this because of this last week that we had, and not just in Nicaragua, but also here in Mount Pleasant, and was super excited about just what our church was doing. And we realized, a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, like, all right, a lot of us are going to be gone, and what are we going to do in this room? And so last week we said, hey, why don't everybody just goes and serves. You still do 10 a.m. and have coffee, and somebody can bring donuts, but just don't use the room. Gasp. Can you do that? Or do we go out of business? Or we get our nonprofit shut down? Does God stop shining on our church? But a bunch of you guys, 20 or 30 of you, went and served a local family about 5 miles down the road. And I would love, I'm just kind of shooting this out there. I don't know if anybody wants to, but does anybody want to come up front and maybe just talk about that a little bit for a few minutes? We've got a few stools we're going to bring up, and I'm just going to put you on the spot. I do have a picture of everybody that was there, so I could call you out, I guess. And if you want, you can do it from your seat, because, no shame here in this church, but does anybody... Come on up, man. Come on up. Do we have a microphone he can use? Because Mike's quiet. Yeah, you are, but you can use that thing.
Is it working?
I don't know. I'm about to find out.
So, it was really, I always talk to my kids about how blessed we are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really hit home because we're so blessed.
Yeah.
Right? They've never really been in a place that experienced poverty or things that are run down, especially in our local community.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking all the kids there and being able to go home, especially Emily or Faith, was just asking them, what was that like? And Emily's response was, I can't believe how small their house was.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't believe how many people live in that house.
Mm.
And, where do they don't have any toys. Like they don't have a playroom. They don't have the things. And so that was really neat to be able to experience when we get to say, like, hey, you're blessed. Like, it means it carries more for them. And then the other part was having some of the older kids. I think it was, who was it? Somebody had asked us to, had all the older kids. It was somewhat organized chaos.
Heck yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, we need to build a step. And I'm not a carpenter. I'm not going to pretend to be one. And I got some direction, and then just had all the older kids use power tools. So they used the saw, and they used the drills. I didn't let them use the framing gun. Probably should have. But, to allow them to experience.
Oh,
yeah,
so that's awesome.
To experience, like, hey, we're going to build, this is why we're doing it. This is why she can't make the step
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just building this little thing for 40 minutes was really cool.
That's
to
awesome.
be able to have them, be able to use tools and,
Yeah.
experience helping someone else in that way.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
So
love
those were
it.
the two.
Dude, thank you so much
Yeah.
for kicking that off.
Yeah.
How old is Emily again?
What's that?
10 years old.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Had quite a bit.
She didn't quite get it. But
She didn't get it. Come on, Faith. Come on. I love it. Who else? Anybody else from last Sunday? Eddie? Come on up, man.
So the thing that was the most moving for me, or experiential, I guess, for me, was talking to Mr. Washington.
Oh, cool. Heck yeah.
So I was sweating like a pig. I was done. I was so done. I was sitting in the shade. And Mr. Washington was sitting over here under a tree in the shade. And I went and put a chair right next to him, and I sat with him. And I was like, how long you been here? And tell me a little bit about what's going on. And he said, yeah, my daddy sat in this very spot. This was his favorite spot. And he told me the story about how, he bought out, this is family land forever, right? And he ended up coming up with the means to buy out the rest of his siblings so that he could continue to live there. And he talked about his hardships and his son dying after with PTSD and committing suicide. And he talked about just running into financial hardship and feeling like he was going to lose it all. And he said, I just needed some help. And I just told him that I felt blessed that he asked for help and allowed us to serve him. And even though I was serving him, I felt like I was being the one blessed.
Yeah.
So,
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
no. So it has nothing to do with all the fascia and all the siding and all that. It was just, I guess, connecting with someone on a human level like that.
Yeah.
And it just felt so great to be able to be a part of his life in that way.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thanks, man. What else? Anybody else? Throw some of those pictures back up there. So this house, do you have some of the beginning pictures? I think, if I loaded them right. Yeah. So it's, that house is like falling down. I mean, crazy falling down. And it's literally a mile or two from here. It is right off Long Point Road, maybe half a block. And they're living in there with no showers, tubs, no heat, one toilet, one bathroom sink, heating with the oven in the kitchen. No doors, interior doors, no laundry room, and mom sleeping with the kids in a bed, and existing. And meanwhile, hundreds and hundreds of cars going by every day. And sometimes you just don't know need. And God just showed us the need, and one thing led to another, and here we are 6 or 7 months later, and there's been a lot of people that have donated a ton of time and effort, re-sided it, put a laundry room on the back, put a heating and air conditioning system in. I know a lot of you guys redid some decor inside, which looked absolutely amazing. Yeah, look at this kid's room. Unbelievable. That thing was dark blue, mattress leaned up against the wall when I saw it a month ago. And now it's bright and amazing. I heard the kids just went nuts, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic. Yeah, yeah. I love it. Hmm. Heck yeah. I don't know if it's in there, and I don't think it is. Send it out, Deb. Come on, let's get it. But thank you guys for doing that. The Washingtons are sweet people. They got some health problems, and that place just is looking like $1 million, man. You guys rock. It was absolutely awesome. Yes, lots of work to still do. So, good stuff.
Well, and that old heater that was the range is now been replaced as well.
Nice.
They got a new stovetop range.
Range, heck yeah. I love it.
Beds.
I love it. Yes. I love it. Very cool. Well, the rest of us went to Nicaragua, so I'd love to transition a little bit there. If you went to Nicaragua and you wouldn't mind coming up and saying a few words, we can just kind of get everybody up here at once. If you'd like, probably don't want to, but get your butts up here and grab some chairs and put them on the platform right here. Just make an absolute team of it. How about that? Got another stool. Come on. Look at this crew. They're a little tired because they got so much rest on the trip that, can't lie in church. Exactly. They have barbers in Nicaragua for sure. I love it. I love it. Need one more chair? Good stuff. You want that stool right there? Scoot over a little bit, Oscar. Perfect. Well, we went down for 7 days and had some delays on the way, which was fantastic. So Thursday was like 100 hours of travel, and here, you can use that one down that way. There you go. And had an amazing trip. We just the mic keeps going. Well, guess it stops there. You're first. So Genevieve. But had an amazing week. We just a kind of a brief overview. We basically visited 3 different villages, if you will, 3 different areas. So Managua, which is the capital city, Kilometer 54, which is a small village about an hour and a half out of the city that we've been many times, and then a new area that we started serving, which is basically a community that used to be a dump, and they're transitioning that away from being a dump. So, I would say what's kind of cool for this trip is Josh and Kelly and I have been before, but we've never taken 8 people that have never been there before. It's usually a mix of people. And so I would love to know from you guys, like, what would you say was the number one most impacting thing, like the top of mind thing, the thing that you've talked about the most over the last 2 or 3 days? What would you say that is for you? And anybody can go first. Not everybody at once. Genevieve.
I think the most impactful thing for me was one of the communities we went to. It was like called the dump community because it used to literally be a dump, and the kids there were just so full of joy and loving. And like I was playing soccer with some of the boys, and we're playing with like dirt with like glass everywhere and garbage, and they're just having like the time of their lives. And it was so cool to see them. They have nothing, but they're just so full of love and joy. So.
I would say for me, the last day was really impactful because I got to meet this little girl who I hadn't even seen any of the other days that we had been there. But she was just super shy and like didn't even come out to play unless her mom would take her with her. But I like eventually got her really warm up to me and play with me and stuff. And then like every time she would see me, she would come up and give me like the biggest hug. So then when everybody was getting ready to leave at the end of the day, her mom was like, she like walked up to like these two and she was like, "Where is Skylar? Like I need to find Skylar." And she eventually found me and was like, "Please like come take a picture with my daughter." And after that, she was like started crying and she was talking to me because she spoke English. And she was just like, "Thank you so much for loving on my daughter today. Like it'll mean more to us than you will ever know. Like, we're so thankful for you and your entire team just coming down here and loving on our kids." So that was just like, it really touched my heart.
I think for me, when we held the church service Sunday, Jared asked all of us to stand to the side after the service and pray for anybody who had needed it. And so my dad and I just stood to the side and we took communion together, and I was already bawling, crying. But so we're just sitting beside, and this mom and her two, it was a daughter and a son, and they were both really young, came up to us asking for us to pray for them, and my dad prayed for them in Spanish, which I didn't understand, but I was in the moment. And then I prayed for them in English, and none of them obviously could understand me, but as I'm praying, I opened my eyes, and my dad and I were crying, but I opened my eyes, and the two younger, all of them were crying, but they couldn't even understand me. So it was just so touching that even if they can't understand me and me in language, the Spirit still moves, and he said, worship song, he is more than able, so the Spirit still moved through us even though they couldn't understand. So it was really touching for me.
Heck yeah.
I think for me, it was just the genuine joy that they had. They had absolutely nothing, but they were always happy to see us and wanted to show us what little they did have and their unconditional love that they had. It didn't matter who we were, the fact that we couldn't speak with them, they showed us love. And we were there to go and love them, but I felt like I was being loved more than I was giving it, which was just insane and crazy to see.
For me, is this not hate microphones? For me, the word hope just kept on popping up. Jared asked us the first night, kind of what's one word, and hope just kept resounding. And throughout the week, it just kept popping up, and seeing the hope in their eyes, the joy in their eyes. And in my mindset, I'm like, well, are they hoping in us, or are they hoping in God? And how do I have to pray that? Because I don't want them hoping in us. They go, when are you guys coming back? And I'm like, tomorrow, or what day we're coming back. But I'm like, how do I, without being able to talk to them, get them to understand the hope is in God? And the last day, there's this one kid, she's like 8 or 9, I don't really know. She got a sticker that said hope. And the entire week, she didn't speak one word of English. She doesn't know English. I heard 2 words in English, and one of them was also Spanish. One was no. The way she said no, too, we're grabbing crabs, and I had a crab, and I went to throw it. I was just very serious. And I'm like, okay. The only other word, she got a sticker that said hope, and I didn't know it. She just came up to me, and she said the word hope. That sticker could have said anything, friends, amigos, but she said it in perfect English. She was teaching me what it meant, and it was really impactful.
That's wild.
For me, it was playing soccer with the older kids and getting to learn their stories and just get to know them and seeing them have pure joy.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. You played your heart out. And he played his hair off, yeah. That was awesome. How about you, man?
So it was my first mission trip, believe it or not.
True story.
I always lived there, so I was always on the meeting people their side and
That's right.
just saying bye when they were off. It was really cool to be. I don't know. It was different, yet oddly the same. Because I never felt like an outsider when I lived there and worked with, especially with this team when I met Jared. So it was really cool to just kind of have that continuation, and then I was super excited. Side note, we have a kid here today who's from Kilometer 54, visiting us, lives in Charlotte now, and his name is Brian. So it's crazy, the clash of the worlds. Now Brian lives here in the States, and
Yep.
his mom is sending stuff to him through us and stuff like that. So that's really cool to see. But Brian used to be one of them little kids that used to play soccer with. He's older, growing up now. A little bit bigger.
Yeah, he is.
He knows some English, right? A little English. So I can't say anything bad about him. I don't know. I can't single out a single most impactful moment. Honestly, the most impactful time for me was just looking up and just seeing pure joy, and that happened a lot. And it didn't matter who was what and who was from there, who was not from there, whose skin color was different, whose social status was different. Everyone was having the same amount of fun. It was true worship outside of a church. and that was beautiful to see. And that happened like every day, which I wish I could live that life every day.
Amen.
Maybe with a little more sleep, maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I second that. Same with what Aidan said, and kind of Eddie, what you were saying. We got down there to give, and from the moment we stepped out of kilometer 54, and they're coming at us, showing us what real love looks like. We got wrecked. Yeah. We just got wrecked. I mean, these people have tree limbs for posts, holding up tin roofs. If you're lucky, you have block walls. They have nothing, and they have joy, and they have peace, and they have everything that a Christian is supposed to have, and they don't complain. I just don't think we could say it enough, how great their attitude and their hearts were, and I mean it wrecked us all, I couldn't hold it together down there. Can't hold it together up here, but the pure love was, I would say, a thin place that we could see what true love looks like, and peace and contentment and stuff.
For me, it felt like a family reunion because it was, and I haven't been back for 5 years, and that's been hard. And then wondering like what it was going to be like to come back after 5 years, and it just felt like no time had passed. So that was super special and sweet. A lot of our littles that we first met 10 years ago are now big and have kids of their own, and that was super sweet. And it's just always, Jared and I were talking about it, every team that we bring, it's funny because it's always this, it's like the same thing, and you wonder like, is it gonna happen again? And it always happens as soon as everybody gets off the bus, and then the kids all come running and they grab their person, and then it's like, you just got that person for the rest of forever, it's like that's your kid, right? And I told them that was going to happen, and it was just so cool to watch it happen again and again and again. And just to share that family with our family here, bringing a new group is always just such a blessing to see it happen and share that family there with you guys. So that was sweet. That was probably, I don't know what's the most impactful. That's difficult. Like Josh said, that's difficult. Every day was impactful. Every interaction was impactful. It always is, but yeah, the no time lapse felt amazing, and I didn't know what to expect because it had been so long, and it's never been that long in between visits. And it was like no time had lapsed. So, yeah.
This is probably going to be a little bit of a similar question, but what do you feel like God showed you, maybe about yourself or about others during the week? And not all of you have to answer, but what did you see? What did God show you?
For me, I think he just showed us himself through these kids. Seriously, the joy that they had, I don't think I've ever felt so close to God through another person. Just the sparkle in their eye and the joy they had. And it's cool because they're no different than we are. Like we can see that in ourselves here, and we're all the same people. We just get too busy, too caught up in screens, and we just got to figure out how to pull that out and identify it in each other.
And I would say, too, when we were worshiping on Sunday and when we're in the field, I would say he showed us a picture of the church, not whatever T-shirt we wear and church we go to here. It's the church. It's multilingual. It's love. It's all the fruit of the Spirit. Getting along together, celebrating, in his name. So, and this guy was a rock star. just being the connection point between it and praising and worshiping in Spanish and English on stage, and everybody there worshiping as one big family. It felt like the church,
For me, he really just showed me like his peace. I know we like read all throughout the Bible, like God gives you like this peace that is like beyond understanding even. But it's just like, especially on the last 2 days, I felt more at peace than I have ever been. Like all of my worries and stress were just like taken away, and I just felt, I don't know, just so peaceful.
Nope, all eyes back on me. All right. I love it. Hey, you guys were awesome. I hope that was just a trip of a lifetime and the first of many. Couple things.
This is all of you except Elisa.
Elisa, I guess she's in kids. She's just still serving, She couldn't get enough of it. You should take Elisa out to coffee and ask her about the trip, because she's always awesome, but she had a phenomenal trip and has some really cool stuff to share. Kelly and Aiden. Kelly and Aiden had all the babies. Aiden almost never had a baby in her hands, which was amazing. There's Elisa. She looks slightly happy. This is the beach, so we rent a school bus and pack about 100 people in a school bus and take them to the beach. They live 5 miles from it, but they're never there. They just have an absolute blast. That's an old pier that everybody finds shade under. That's the ice cream man. He knows when to come around, because we're like, come on over, and we make a giant line and buy $120 worth of ice cream in 5 minutes or less. And what's cool about the beach is you end up getting a lot of the adults there. When you don't always have adults in the village, because the dads aren't coming around or whatever, but you can see a dad or two playing soccer, which is really cool, and really an amazing thing to have just the family together. And then we just eat lunch with them and just have an absolute blast. Is kind of how that goes. But it was a great trip, great week. I think there's a lot of different things. A few people didn't feel well and just plowed through. There's a lot of rock stars in the room, so if you're wondering what the trip was like, I would say have lunch with them. It doesn't stop here. You got to recap, but there's a lot more that happened during that week, and take some people out to lunch. And what's up? Yes, 100%. Yeah. Do you guys have anything else? Just highlight of the trip, a moment you had, a special moment, funnest moment. The moment you wish you could relive the most. How about that? Mine? Oh, man. I had so many, but probably the most impactful moment, if I had to choose one, would be the last night. We had this family that served us from Josh. Josh's mom has a church down there. Her name's Becky. She's the pastor. And that's how Josh ended up there, is his parents started a church down there 30 years ago. And the rest is history. And Josh's dad has passed away, but Becky is back there now, running that church. And she's about 4'13" and from upstate New York, as far as you can get from Nicaragua. But she's the sweetest soul. And there was a guy in her church that we hired to be our security for the week. And he's always got his eyes on everything. He was always serving, not just security. His name's Carlos. And he brought his family along. And so this is the first time as a bunch of gringos that we've had a Nicaraguan family along with us. So they ate with us and they were in the bus with us. We went out to eat together. He brought his wife with him, who was quiet, but his daughters with him, and then a friend of the daughters, and they were just nothing but joy and giggles. It was absolutely unbelievable. You could look at one or two of them and they'd just start giggling, and the whole bus was just on fire with laughter. It was amazing. I wish we could bottle that up. But and so we got to hear their stories on the bus rides, which was really cool, just what they dream of. One of them wants to be a chef, and she just loves to cook, and she wishes she could be a chef one day, and she's taking computer classes right now. So just getting to hear their stories, getting to see the level of servitude that they had was absolutely unbelievable. You couldn't do anything without Carlos right behind you trying to carry it or carry you with it or just anything. And there was never an activity that went by where the girls weren't in the middle of it, dancing or, blowing up balloons or just doing whatever. And the last night, two things happened. One, Josh and I sat down with Carlos and tried to pay him for being our security for the week. And he just refused. And it's like, that was the deal. Like, we hired you. And he just said, no, it's different than that. And I said, fine, you're going to take a gift, though. It's a gift for the family. So we made him take it. But I said, hey, I just want to know, like, what was the week like for you? Was it okay? Because, we're very white. And we tend to treat people like entitled, privileged, tone-deaf white people sometimes. And so I always like to go, hey, what was that like? Like, what did you experience? Be really honest. And so we don't make mistakes over and over again and not know it, because they're very kind and they won't tell you. But he, big, tough guy, his arms are like boulders. You can't even, and he just broke down in tears. He couldn't even talk. And I'm looking at Josh, and he just finally got the words out, I'm sorry. But he just said, this has been the adventure of a lifetime. And to us, it's a mission trip. To us, it's, we raise money, we pay for flights, and we arrange food, and we try to stick to some sort of a loose agenda and let the Spirit work at the same time, blah, 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 blah. We come and we go. To him and his family, it was an adventure of a lifetime. He said, my daughters have done things this week that we've always dreamed of allowing our daughters to do. Now listen, all we did was drive in a bus, play with balloons and kids, ate meals, and went to the beach. That was an adventure of a lifetime. And it was an adventure of a lifetime for you guys too, for me too. But that last night that happened. And then Linda, who is a worship leader from Josh's mom's church, she's very quiet, and unless she's on stage, she's unbelievable. And she observes a ton. Like, she's the back of the crowd. You can see her watching everything, taking it all in. And I was like, I want to know what you guys thought of today. And we partied hard at the pastor's house in kilometer 54. And she just said, she said words that I'll never forget. Like, Josh is translating, and she just goes, most churches, especially in kids ministry, like there's a way to do it. There's a structure. You bring the kids in, bless you. That was awesome. You bring the kids in, you make them say this prayer, they get a cookie, they hear a verse, you keep them in line, they better not talk, and then it's over. It starts when it starts, it ends when it ends, and that's it. It's very structured here. And I was like, yeah, that's not like that in America at all. And then she said, but you guys come in and you just go straight for the heart. And she's like, I've just never experienced that before. And I'm just going, Josh is translating. She's like here, Josh is there, and I look over from her, and he's trying to translate, and I'm just like trying to listen, because you always wonder if any of this lands. Or did they go, stupid gringos just came and partied, And the night before, Skylar was like, hey, tomorrow's the last day. Like, how do we make sure we leave them with Jesus? We show them Jesus. And I was like, well, we all, we talked about it for a bit. And it was like, you walk around with them like Jesus. And you treat them like Jesus. And Jesus said, suffer not the little kids. Let them come on. He didn't say, memorize this verse. He probably played soccer with them. And he probably, if they had balloons, used them. And this was our last day. And they met Jesus, a lot of them, in a lot of ways. And just that confirmation of Linda sitting there and going, I've never seen people come and just go right to the heart of a child before. And so that was really affirming for us. And it just capped off an absolutely fantastic week. So that was my favorite. Lots of favorites. So you guys rock. Anything to add? Any other moments? Nothing so far? You look great, by the way. This guy got his hair cut in front of like 40 Nicaraguans by a Nicaraguan with clippers, and who knows how he was going to do, but he did a great job. So you did let Josh and Peter go first, so I did notice that, yeah. Very smart of you. So, well, you guys can take a seat. Let's give them a hand. So yeah, like Josh said, this is Brian. Come on up, Brian. Aquí, mi amigo. This is Brian. We met him when he was 10 years younger, so probably 8 years old. Come on up, man. And I'll take a taller one. Sure. because this guy grew up. Look at you. What happened? Lord have mercy. Long time no see. Come on, have a seat. Here you go. You ask the questions. I'm going to listen.
Yes.
You want me to ask questions? You going to say them in...
I just translate.
You just... Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. One of my favorite other parts of this trip was seeing Josh step into leadership, not trans-leadership, either way. It was the same. Josh was always leading in the way Josh lives his life, but it was cool to know that he just picked up the pieces, and it was awesome. How are you?
Good.
What happened? Look at these things. Oh my gosh.
Muy buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everybody.
Lo que quiero decirle que yo también fui uno de esos chicos cuando ellos llegaron.
I want to say that I was one of those little kids back when they came.
Cuando el pastor Jared junto a los otros chicos y junto a su esposa hace 5 o 6 años atrás.
When Pastor Jared, along with the other kids or all the other people and his wife, like maybe 6 years ago,
La verdad que yo junto al resto de los otros chicos nicaragüenses hemos tenido cada vez que ellos llegan una experiencia muy linda.
every time they would come, along my other Nicaraguan friends, we had such a great experience.
Ellos nos llevan alegría,
They would bring joy.
nos llevan a familiarizarnos.
They make us be familiar.
Cada vez que llegaban ellos siempre estábamos divertidos,
Every time they came, we would have a lot of fun.
salíamos a la playa,
We'd go to the beach,
jugábamos fútbol
play soccer,
y nunca faltaba siempre una enseñanza.
and they always taught us something.
Sí, siempre, cada vez, todos los días no faltaba una enseñanza bíblica.
Every day they taught us something from the Bible.
Y lo que sí sé que cada vez que ellos llegaban es que aparte nosotros los chicos llevaban mucha bendición a los padres de familias que en Nicaragua llegaban muchas bendiciones que ellos no tenían para suplirse.
And every time they came, they also brought blessings for the family, for the parents, where parents have a hard time being able to find subsistence.
Alegraban a cientos de familias con las bendiciones.
They bring happiness to hundreds of families through the blessing.
Fue una experiencia muy linda y fue una parte de nosotros que cada vez que se venían ellos dejaban como un vacío.
And it was such a great experience. And then when they would go back, we'd definitely feel like the emptiness. We'd feel them gone.
Habían tantos niños que hoy en día han crecido, pero siempre cuando estaba viendo en el video cuando ellos siempre hacen lo mismo, dar paletas, helados, son cosas que tal vez los niños, ellos no pueden hacerlo, los padres no tienen, y cada vez que ellos están, es algo que no se ve, pero sí ellos están con mucha alegría.
And it was really cool to see in the videos some of the kids that were kids and now they're grown up, and then they're still doing the same things with them. They're doing the ice cream, they're bringing that happiness, and it's just incredible to have those memories.
Y todos siempre estamos encantados con el trabajo, la enseñanza que ellos cada vez que llegaban.
We were always excited every time we knew that they were going to come with everything they taught us and with all the work that they did.
Y la verdad que nunca pensé estar aquí hoy en día en la iglesia.
I never thought I'd be here today in this church. Ni yo.
Jugué, reí,
I
lloré
laughed, I played, I cried
con Declan.
with Declan. Chancleta.
Oh. Y la verdad que cuando fui un niño de esos, cada vez que llegaban cambiaban mi semblante, porque ellos son tan diferentes, son tan especiales, él y todo su grupo, su esposa.
And when I was a kid, they just completely changed everything about me because they're so different, so special, him, his wife.
Y siempre pues tenía tiempo de no verlo y estoy contento.
I hadn't seen them in a while, so I'm very happy.
Sí, y la verdad que hoy en día que ellos vuelven a llegar otra vez allá, solo veo la cara tan feliz.
Now that I'm seeing that they're going back to my town, I'm seeing all these happy faces on all my friends.
Y todos esos niños pequeños que yo conozco,
And all those little kids that I know.
puedo conocer un poco la vida de ellos.
And I know their lives.
Al verlos hoy en el video,
Seeing them today in the videos,
siempre digo que, sigo diciendo siempre que cuando llegan siempre hacen lo mejor.
I still see, and I always say that when they come, like, they always do their best.
Y cuando estaba en la iglesia siempre orábamos por este grupo de misioneros.
And when I was in my church back there, we would always pray for this group of missionaries.
Creo que eso es todo.
I think that's it.
Dude, I love you. Te amo mucho. All right. That was not planned. He was not supposed to show up today. Well, would you stand? Guys, Christianity is not boring. If you find yourself incredibly bored following Jesus, I have a warning for you. You are not following Jesus. And if you've done any reading in the stories that we're given in the New Testament, the adventures that Jesus had with his disciples, the adventures that Jesus had, or the disciples had after Jesus died, rose again, and went back to heaven, you should know that it was a party. It was an absolute adventure. I love some of these words. We talked about it at some point in time in this last week. I can't remember with who. But Matthew 5 talks about how we are salt of the earth. Matthew 5:13 literally says, you are the salt of the earth. So if you find yourself not salty in a good way, you don't need to be ashamed of that. You just go, how come? I wonder why. I wonder what's happened. I wonder if I'm following the wrong thing or if I'm trying too hard. I wonder if I just need to throw my hands up and just run to Jesus. Because that's what you see in some of these videos. You just see these kids just experience joy together. There's no magic agenda or anything. It was just, here's some of the things we want to make sure we do. We want to make sure we connect. Here's some of the ways we know how to connect. It'll look different in your neighborhood. Trust me, do not go up to kids in your neighborhood and hug them. It just doesn't work in America for some reason. But there are ways you can connect in those same ways. And later on in that same chapter, the next verse, it says, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. You're the light of the world. You're meant to be seen. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. You are the light of the world. 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 I think we just forget it. We have so many rules on how to be really good at something. It was interesting because a couple of them that have never been, the first night were like, I think it was Selah said, we really didn't know what to do when we kind of got out of the bus. And then within a few minutes, it's like we kind of knew what to do. It was like the Spirit was leading us. It was just Spirit-led. Because we didn't have classes for the last 6 months. We didn't, if the kid says this, say this so that they'll say the prayer and give them a piece of candy if they get saved. Like, we didn't do any of that. We just said, you already have it inside of you. Like the Holy Spirit lives inside of you already. So don't complicate it. Just be kind to people. Step out and risk a little bit. Be the first one to say hello. You might run into a neighbor that won't. That's all right. The other 99 neighbors will be like, I can't believe they said hi to me. I can't believe somebody noticed me today. Like, that's what you're experiencing here. We didn't do anything magic. There's been no magic. There's just been, I think we're supposed to go on this trip. Kelly and I had never been on one in our entire lives 10 years ago. And there was, trust me, no training. It was literally like we signed up and we went, and it was 3 weeks. And it was like, we should move here. And the challenge is, the thin place is everywhere. God's everywhere. Heaven's everywhere. Remember that Celtic saying, it's only 3 feet away at all times. So I would ask you, like, what are you putting within that 3 feet? Like, for you, we're all different. What's that 3 feet barrier for you? Because there's never a moment in your life that you're not more than 3 feet away. There's never a moment in life, no matter how far you've run the wrong direction, that you can't turn right around and bump into Jesus and be like, oh my gosh, you were following so close. He's like, I'm always right behind you. I'm never going to push myself on you. I'm never going to make you follow me, but I'm always going to be knocking. I'm always going to be right there at the door knocking. I don't even have a doorknob to open the door, but I'm always going to be knocking. And you just get to, no matter how far you've gone, you just get to turn around and go, man, I'm ready. And your best bet is hands up, face paint on your face, sweaty, feet hurt, legs hurt, everything behind you, your securities behind you, your inferiorities out in the open, and just ready to be loved and to love. And you can get that anywhere. You can get that here this morning. So if you're in here and you're like, I got to keep it together, I've got to show everybody something here, I've got to maintain my identity as an American or a South Carolinian or a mom or a dad or a worker or a business owner or whatever the thing is that we all carry with us. That's not who you are. You're a child of God, just like some of those faces you've seen on there. And he's shown up this morning going, hey, would you abide in me like they abide in me? Just give me 5 minutes. Because we talked about that as a group. It was like, I think really what we're experiencing is we're just pouring out and they're pouring out. And I think we're abiding in them and we're abiding in God. At the same time, God's abiding in us. That's all that's really happening. It's a magical verse, abide in me and I will abide in you. And you're like, I don't understand that one. Next page. But then when you experience, you go, wait a minute, I wasn't even trying. That's right. It's all about just letting go for a second. So this morning, you get a few more minutes. And maybe you're 3 feet away, and maybe you've even managed to be 4 feet away. But I would just let you know that there's no way you can try to get there. It's addition by subtraction. It's be less of you, be less of what you feel you need to be, set down all of your expectations for yourself and church, and especially me as a pastor, or the band, or the sound system, or all those things, and just go, God, I'm just ready to meet you. And sing loud and off key, raise your hands at the wrong time, clap off beat, like who gives a crap? Like just be here and be ready for the Lord to love on you, okay? Because he's here ready to. On the left and the right, there's communion. It's a loaf of sourdough. You literally break the bread off and dip it in the juice. And it's a time of celebration. I know sometimes it's somber, and it might be for you, but it was meant to be a celebration. The Last Supper was a celebration. It was a meal together as a family, and this is a family. This is time for you to go up there and go celebrate what he did for you, celebrate what he's doing for you, celebrate what you need and you just hope he does for you in the future. Take it together as a group, people you don't even know. Hey, would you want to take communion with me? I know it sounds crazy to actually talk to people you don't know at church, but take it with somebody you don't know. And over the loudspeakers that are probably in the wrong place with the lighting that probably isn't working, Do you need anything? Do you need prayer for anything? And then just pray even though you don't know how to. Just do it. Just be completely and utterly 100% you in this moment. God, we just thank you for this time, this place that you've given us. There's no accident that each of us are in this room and that we're each in this room together. We have no idea what you're doing, but you do. And we trust you. And we do our best to just lay down our identities at this cross, lay down our fears, our anxieties, our expectations, tomorrow, and especially yesterday at the foot of this cross. And we just pray that we can just be as present as little kids in your presence. In your name we pray. Amen.